Hi, I'm Spindle, and a lot has happened to the E30 over the past 2 months, so I'm just going to give you a quick look around it and show you a few of the things that have changed since the last video. The inside of the car has seen a lot of changes since you last saw it. For a start, I cut the standard BMW dashboard out. That gave me a lot more room to move around and work out the measurements for the new steering column. The steering column is from Woodward over in America. The standard column just wasn't up to scratch for what we wanted out of the car. Spoke to Woodward and they managed to give us the information we needed to measure up and get this one. It has a quick release steering wheel boss on it, which we've got a OMP steering wheel and a switch panel, as I explained in the first episode we did, which has now been made and is ready to go. The dashboard you'll recognise is no longer a BMW dashboard. It is actually a carbon fibre version of a Mark II Escort dashboard. I had a lot of chopping around to get it to fit, but it is in there. It's tucked away nice and close to the windscreen so that there's a nice big gap for the display we're going to have here for the driver. Pedal box is now fitted. There was a lot of modifications to get that in as well. I ordered a bracket which was supposed to bolt it straight in, which did bolt it straight in, but it sat the pedals far too close to the steering column, so the box has been adapted so that it's 50mm further over to the left and 50mm closer to the driver, because we didn't get full swing on the pedals. That is now in there, all sorted out, just waiting to be plumbed in with the brake lines. The shifter is an RP short shifter. I had to make a custom linkage for it because the gearbox is so close to the original point in the E30, which we didn't want to move for inside the car for the driving position. So that's got a custom made linkage in there. It's probably about 2 inches long, if that. I basically cut down the standard one, welded it together and made sure it's all in the right position. We didn't want to leave the painted floor open to be all scratched, so we decided to put some carbon fibre foot panels in. I've had to make spacers to get it level because obviously the standard floor is not level at all, and now that's in there I'll also be able to use that to fit some of the fuel line brackets and some of the wire into the side of it rather than drilling into the car itself, which we're trying to avoid through this build where possible because it is already painted. After cutting out the standard E30 dashboard and fitting this Escort version, there's no room at all for the standard E30 heater box. So we've got rid of that one and now using this aftermarket one because we do still need a heater, seeing as this is going to be used on the street as well as the track. One of the things that Ben wanted in this build was a single wiper conversion. No one seems to make them anymore, so the challenge was to actually turn his twin wiper into a single wiper. After a bit of thought and investigation in the linkage, I managed to come up with an answer, and now we have a full working, full sweeping single wiper conversion fitted to the car. After completing the single wiper conversion, I was left with the other fitting for the opposite side wiper, which I utilised for the air jack inlet. This location is also where quite a few of the DTM E30 M3s decided to fit as, so it still follows the DTM Tribute aim of the car. Before we fitted the Euro Smileys onto the car, Ben got Rich at Pro Coatings UK to wrap them in a yellow tint. He also had the surrounds wrapped because we feel that it gives the car a much better look at the front. The engine bay has seen quite a lot of work as well. I've stripped all the ancillaries off the engine itself and sent them off to be aqua blasted after stripping them down of all the electrical components and taking out anything that could be damaged from the aqua blasting. I stripped all the original paint off the rocker covers, sanded them all down and painted them in a satin black. In the scuttle you can see that I've had a blank made to cover up where the original heater box was, as the new one just draws air in from inside the cabin. The blank has a seal around it to stop any water ingress. On the subject of water, I've also used an epoxy coating after rust prevention inside the scuttle, as a lot of water does collect in there. It's a common point for rust to build between the two skins inside here. That should not happen at all on this anymore, as it's all sealed up properly now. Moving on to the outside of the firewall, you can see the reflective material I've put on here to try and keep heat out from inside the cabin from the engine bay. That goes all the way down, all the way under the tunnel, and protects from the exhaust, putting heat inside the cabin as well. While having this heater blank made, I got Tony to make a bracket to hold the new brake and clutch fluid reservoir, as I wanted to utilise this bracket that originally holds the fuse box. This now bolts directly in place, is easy access to check the levels or topping up, and I'll obviously be able to take the lines down through straight to where the pedal box is. So it's the ideal location, good use of original bracket, and also looks pretty cool. That's caught you up to date with the past 2 months of some of the things that have been going on with the car. Future episodes are going to include the fitting of the KW competition two-way coilovers that we've had ordered. They are a custom build because we need the car sitting nice and low, and the standard ones you can order just didn't give the drop that we wanted. So when they arrive, we'll get them on there and show you what they're all about. The front didn't have any way of fitting an anti-roll bar, so that has now been worked out. We found an anti-roll bar that we want to use, some drop links that suit the KW coilovers that we've got coming, and it should all go together pretty well. Things are being powder coated to match the rest of the car that I've had done, and a lot of performance bushes etc. have been ordered to be able to put that all together. We've got the brakes now sorted out. Rayland Motorsport are building the discs to our spec to suit with the centre lock kit that we've fitted onto the car, and we wanted larger diameter rear discs, although we are still using the standard caliper for now, so they've had to design a extension bracket to fit the standard caliper onto the larger disc for us. That's going to be a pretty impressive setup with the separate bell and rotor. As you saw in the video, the engine is currently in bits with no ancillaries. It also has no sump on, as I had to remove that to fit the AmSpeed S65 manual dipstick conversion, as obviously the E30 just doesn't have the computer equipment to digitally read the oil level. So the sump came off. The Boss has been welded on that so we can have the external dipstick, and while that's apart, we are replacing the big end shells, as they are common to go on the S65 engine, and we are using ARP bolts to hold all that together. They're a little bit stronger than the standard ones, and it's going to make things last a lot longer after this car gets quite a lot of abuse around track. As I mentioned earlier, all the ancillaries for the engine have been sent off for aquablasting, so when they come back I'll be able to rebuild all of those and get them ready to put onto the engine. I've ordered all the new bolts, nuts, gaskets, seals and fittings from BMW so that I can fit it all back on with nice shiny new parts. The fittings have been bought for the external oil cooler system, so I'll be fitting that. I'll make sure I record that so that that can all be shown. The fittings also need to be attached to the actual oil cooler itself, which is currently being looked at. Due to the new radiator, the thermostat housing has had to have some work done to it so we can join the hoses up. I wanted as little silicone pipework as I can in the engine bay, so I've extended the housing with some aluminium piping, flared the ends and got a nice short run of silicone piping from the radiator to those. You'll be seeing those get all fitted up. If it looks like it's taken a long time to complete this build, it's because we're also working on multiple other vehicles. Chase's 316i Resto is coming along nicely. We have got videos coming up of a BC coilover install along with a front suspension rebuild. I'm starting work on a Mark 1 Golf GTI. It's currently has a seized engine, so I'm going to be doing a engine repair on that once I actually find out what is wrong with it. So if you're into your Mark 1 Golfs, then there'll be content there for you with that. I'm covering a big brake conversion on a E82 123D, which will also fit 135is. And there's steering wheel swaps on a BMW 1 Series, so if you need to know how to do that, keep your eyes open because I'll be doing a how-to covering the full swap over on removing and replacing the steering wheel. So join us on those future episodes covering various cars. As we go along, we're going to be getting more vehicles in different brands. It's not just going to be all E30 BMWs, so keep your eyes open. The gear shifter is now... What's he doing?
Am I making noise? Oh, sorry.
He's testing his pen.
Are you finished?
Yeah. Remember you had a custom...
Just like in the background, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different thing.